This is where I magically make my audio quality a lot worse. Boom. Prompt. We are going to pass this over to Yagamoth.
Hey, Yagamoth.
Hello.
Yep, so good luck with your run today, man. And I'm going to pass off to you. Let me know when you want to start the timer.
Alright, sounds good. Do we have any names or currently nothing noted?
No names or anything, no.
No names or anything, alrighty. So, we are actually not going to be naming the lady throughout this run, so I'm going to just go ahead and name this guy here. RPGC. And ladies and gentlemen, normally you want to only have one letter for a character name, because that's faster overall in text boxes, but it's not going to make that much of a difference. So, thank you very much, High Spirits, and I would say let's just get this going. In 3, 2, 1, let's move. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, you may see two controllers here, and there's a webcam for a reason. I'm not going to need it right now, but eventually, once more characters join our party, I will be able to control multiple characters with two controllers. This game is a Super Nintendo action RPG that you could play with your friends, with your family, with your siblings, up to 3 players, even though the Super Nintendo does not normally have more than 2 controller slots. There are those devices called the multi-tap, and you can do some weird things with those multi-tap devices. Today's run is going to be a 1-player 2-controller run for Secret of Mana. That is actually pretty much the standard category, as I would like to call it. There is a 1-controller category, there is a glitchless category, there is a credits warp category. This one is 1-player 2-controller, more or less the most run one. Even though it uses 2 controllers, it's not nearly as bad as you might think it would be. It's just, you can imagine the 2 controllers just like one big controller, and you don't have to use the secondary characters most of the time. So the basic story here begins where we are on this little bridge. The boy in the middle is our character, and he falls down a log. And falling down from great heights is kind of a theme in this game. Don't worry, that is apparently quite normal in that universe. He's not even worried about falling here, because he doesn't take any damage at all or anything like that. Well, I guess he said ouch, but whatever. Either way, this is kind of your standard story. Boy gets lost in the woods because they were playing in places they shouldn't have been playing. He finds a sword because he needs to have something to cut through those bushes in order to get anywhere. And, well, then we are off to an adventure. Like in traditional RPGs, there are levels. For the most part, I'm not going to be caring about levels at all. However, I'm going to be caring about weapon levels and weapon experience. And I'm dropping frames. I hope that doesn't look too bad. I hope that gets soon well enough, sorry about that. Either way, you're not missing a whole lot. The basic gist is, we find a sword, a ghost talks to us that we are the chosen hero, apparently, to best the evil, best the... all that is not good, and ladies and gentlemen, we have met the donation incentive for to make this run all bosses. So this is going to be pretty special, because normally you will skip a lot of bosses. Traditionally, in the game by itself, you actually cannot skip bosses. Normally. However, I'm going to. Initially in a few scenarios in order to make this faster overall. So this will be a little bit improvisation on my end, because, as I said, you don't normally go ahead and kill all bosses, but I will figure out a way to do that efficiently and quickly, just along the way, more or less. Well, going out of my way, because some areas you never even visit at all. So, you may have noticed I'm killing rabbits here. This is number 5 and 6, right here. And this is for weapon experience. The rabbits don't give much normal experience, but the weapon experience they provide is, well, just as high as any other enemy that is not too low level for you to not get any experience anymore for that matter. Alrighty, we managed to get back to our village here. By the way, worth noting that if you die in the Rabbite Forest, you don't game over like you would normally. You actually get teleported to where you picked up the sword. Basically get a second chance. It's an entire tutorial area. And this first boss here is going to be no different. If I happen to die, which that hasn't happened in years, you would get revived automatically, so no worries. Alrighty, we get slapped around because we picked up the sword that apparently protected the village from monsters and stuff, and now the monsters are all loose, but no one told us, so guess whose fault it is? It's ours, of course. And we get to battle this mantis ant. You see bones and stuff laying all over the place. I guess he already got some villagers or something like that. And the idea for me is to just hit him as soon as I can. So this is the fastest method of disposing of this guy. I try to stand in a way where he just cannot reach me until I'm at the bottom, and then I try to basically lure him to the side and just keep hitting him. That was pretty much a perfect boss fight overall. You could get critical hits. Critical hits deal literally twice as much damage after subtracted by defense. The early enemies and bosses don't have any defense, so it doesn't really matter. But your chance to critically hit is like 4%. So not terribly likely for you to be able to get any critical hits in. Either way, we defeat the boss. This is kind of your introduction to the entire thing. And, well, this guy on the left here, Gemma, he's supposed to more or less halfway accompany you throughout your journey and tell you where to go and be kind of the guy that is your work buddy, your workforce and stuff like that. Well, we're going to be skipping most of that, I can tell you that much. But in the meantime, what we're going to do is visit this little, well, gathering here, where they tell us, hey, we can't just leave the guy that has a sword and just defeated the boss monster in the village. That is, would be way too dangerous, or something like that. Either way, they banish us from the village, and thus our journey begins. I'm okay with that. The elder tells us that we could go ahead and grab the 50 gold chest in his basement if we wanted to, but we don't need it. There's other means of getting ourselves supplied. In the glitchless category, money is actually incredibly tight, so you would want to go and grab that. But in, well, the category that does allow glitches, it's not nearly as much of a problem. So here we have those flowers. If you go too close to those flowers, while they are in their sleepy form, so to speak, they will hit you. Essentially, they have an active hurt box around them, kind of like a trap, so to speak. And if you walk into it, you automatically get a hit. Unless you have enough defense to negate that damage entirely, which we don't right now. You would need to get some equipment and stuff like that, which is not something we are going to get until a little bit later. So, we visit the Water Palace here. Water Palace inhabits Luca, and Luca is like 200 years old, the patron of the water. Also, she has red eyes, kind of creepy. And she essentially explains to us that, hey, you just pick up the Sword of Mana, the sword that was used in order to slay the Mana Fortress in ancient times. No, those are not fairy tales. And, well, the sword is pretty weak right now. It's literally called the Rusty Sword. You need to find a way for it to be powered up again. And the way you do this is you activate the mana seeds in the 8 palaces around the world. And this is the Water Palace, so that means the mana seed of water is right here, and it would get stronger. Interestingly enough, it's actually not just plot device that you do need to seal all the mana seeds. They literally make you a bit stronger every time. Also, once we acquire spells, spells can be leveled up based on how many mana seeds you have sealed so far. So, in a casual playthrough, you absolutely want to seal all of those, but we are not going to. In fact, there's not even checks in there for you to seal 2 of the 8 mana seeds at all. Like, you just straight up don't have to. It's kind of curious. We also acquire a new weapon. one of my favorite features about this game is that you can switch weapons to a range of weapons. I think it's about 8 weapons or so. We're going to skip one of them because, well, we're never going to pick it up. But we get this spear, probably my favorite weapon of the entire game, and it's also going to be our main damaging weapon. The main reason why we choose the spear as our main damaging weapon, also safe. Reset real quick, because this skips 2 dialog boxes and brings us to the entrance of the area. The main reason why we choose the spear is because, quite literally, it's the first weapon we acquire, and it's the most efficient for us to level up along the way, because kind of like the sword, I want the spear to be leveled up to level 1 as well. You will soon see as to why that is. So that means I need to kill a total of 11 enemies with the spear in order to level up that weapon. So, that's 2. Also, worth noting that normally in areas, you do have up to 3 enemies on screen at a time. This screen here is special. It actually only has up to 2, which that is rather unusual, so to speak. The reason for this is because there is an entity consistently loaded. Oops, I missed. There's an entity consistently loaded in the bottom area that always needs to spawn by the game's idea, so you cannot have more than 2 enemies on the screen at a time. This is kind of literally the only screen where that is true. Also, as mentioned earlier, travel is done by cannon. That means falling from great heights. I think that's pretty normal in that world, because he doesn't even bat an eye about going into the cannon and getting shot over all over the place. Alrighty, by the way, in case you're wondering and you do know that game, why we did not get captured by goblin, you only get captured by goblins if you talk with the soldiers in front of the water palace. If you don't talk to them, you don't get captured. So, now we buy 2 items at this Nico here. He literally asked for twice the price compared to any other shop, but this is not going to matter for us for too long. Then I'm going to go into my regular menu, set the cursor to the second item, sell both of those items now. Then we go into the buy menu to set up the ring. And then we go back into the sell menu, and you know what? I'm actually going to go and get more money than usual, because this is all bosses. So, basically, this item menu here is fake, so to speak. This is not really here. Like, what you see is I'm literally selecting an empty item slot in my regular inventory and item menu. And so the game gets really confused as to what it's supposed to do when you sell literally nothing. And it's, well, nothing is worth about 30,000 gold. It also generates an item that is corrupted item called a blat. And if you use that by accident, you actually crash the game. So what I did there is I sold the item a multiple of 8 times in order to get rid of it. Since, well, normally I would only sell the thing once and put it into the last item slot, so it would never really matter at all. But it can matter. Also, speaking of mattering, the early game in Secret of Mana is incredibly volatile. You're running through an area with just one character that can really easily kill you. So I'm actually going to go ahead and safety save. That is the clever thing to do, I would say. And hey Tingle Nader, hope your donation went through. I believe High Spirits just earlier said that he is going to take a shower, so I'm sure it went through, and you will need to probably wait just a little bit until he gets back there. But I'm sure it went through. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Also, speaking of which, ladies and gentlemen, the reason why we are here is for the RPGchick-a-thon. And, well, RPGchick is a valid member of our community, and she has fallen into, let's say, a bit rougher times. And we are trying to help her out a little bit by trying to raise some funds. More specifically, High Spirits is the gentleman who managed to organize this entire marathon within record time and is also manning the station, restreaming everything. He is quite awesome, to say the least. So, but, well, that's kind of why we're here. We're trying to raise a bit of money for a good friend of ours, and, well, hopefully we might be able to reach the goal. Alrighty, so, By the way, I'm killing those goblins because they will still provide me with weapon experience. The spear should level up to level 1 right here, and it did. And I'm picking up a magic rope. Magic rope allows me to transport back to the entrance of a dungeon or area that allows me to use a magic rope. And it will see frequent use, so even if it's a little bit out of the way, it will pay off in spades to be able to just teleport back to an entrance rather than having to walk. So, and welcome everybody, thank you for the good luck, I appreciate that. I'm actually going to go out of my way just a little bit to level up a secondary weapon that may end up being useful for a all bosses run. Normally, leveling up just the spear to level 1 and the sword to level 2 is sufficient, and it would generally be sufficient anyways. I don't have to do that. I just feel like certain bosses I'm not entirely certain how to handle with the regular way of how we defeat them. So I'm going to go ahead and level up a secondary weapon that gives me range. That will be the whip eventually. Either way, we find Watts here. Watts is a blacksmith, a dwarf blacksmith, and he is really good at what he does. And he also will actually forge your sword. When he forges any of your weapons, that means you can level up that weapon to the next level. It will become a bit stronger, and more importantly, the main reason why we are doing this is he will allow you to start leveling up your weapon towards the next level. So now our sword is level 2, which means before I could not level up the sword any further than level 1. Now I will be able to level up the sword to level 2, and that is exactly what I'm going to be doing. So also I buy some basic equipment here. In Seeker of Mana, having something equipped in every single item slot is incredibly important, because if you don't, your evasion is not going to work. Also, I bought way too many arms and I'm just throwing them away. Why am I doing this? This is actually looking really strange. Okay. Another explanation, because there's so much going on. I only bought 2 of each consumable items at the Nico earlier. The normal limit in this game is 4. However, short version is, if I stand in that specific spot and throw away equipment item that I just have equipped, it increases the amount of consumable items I have in my inventory from 2 up to 8. A bit more complicated of an explanation is, it actually reduces the amount of items I have by 2. If I do this specifically with the boy standing in that spot. And it's all based on your relative camera position, or the boy's position relative to the camera on the screen. It just happens that that corner or that wall over there aligns perfectly with where we need to be. And I reduce all the item numbers or amounts of items in my inventory by 2, which means they have 0 now. But they are still selectable, so as soon as I use one of those 0 amount items, it's going to roll over to 7, because 7 is apparently the highest possible number of items you can have in your inventory. It's just all based on how that ends up working out. But I have 8 of each consumable items now available. Alrighty, and here we get to an angry fruit salad. This is Tropicolor. Tropicolor I try to defeat in a very specific manner. I'm just charging up a weapon, avoiding the pumpkin bombs, and then attack again. So if I do this the exact same way every time, this will mean I will be able to defeat him pretty quickly, because normally after you hit him once, he will dive down again. But for some reason, his spitting out the pumpkin actually interrupts the normal action that he's supposed to take, where he's supposed to burrow down, and that only happens during specific times. If I'm lucky, I will kill him right here. Nice. Okay. So this is not guaranteed. I could get low damage rolls. Low damage rolls is when I deal, like, I don't know, 30% less damage. And in this case, if I got 1 low damage roll, I would have not killed him right here, and it would have been, oh well, just 1 more cycle. But we did get lucky, so that's nice. Alrighty, and now we actually have met the sprite here earlier. They tricked us into giving them 50 gold, actually 150, but not like we have. Well, I guess we received the money back too. It's about the principle, it doesn't matter that we are rich. Either way, this is our first party member that we are going to be recruiting into our party, and I'm going to name the sprite in honor of High Spirits, HS. So, High Spirits joined our party, and I'm going to go ahead and equip the spear on the sprite already. Now I'm going to get ready to use a second controller. Most of the time I'm not going to be using two characters at the same time. However, I'm going to do a menu that allows me to flip the D-pad upside down. Like, it literally inverses the D-pad. Left is right is left, up is down is up, and stuff like that. And that will allow me to hold the D-pad in a bit of more convenient position. Also, I need to equip the sprite. Kind of as mentioned earlier, you want to have something equipped in all three item slots: head, armor, and also accessory. Otherwise, you will take significantly more damage. Alrighty, now equipping the sprite with basic equipment. Also, by the way, those power wrists here increase your strength by 5, so it's pretty good. So I flip the controller, and we are ready to go. So I'm actually going to unselect the sprite right away again. This was just his setup, and now I have to level up the sword to level 2. This will be happening just kind of along the way while I kill those enemies here. So that's 1B killed. That means we need 12.5 kills in order to level up the sword from level 1 to level 2. So what is a half kill? A half kill is either when the sprite kills an enemy. Basically it's not our kill, so to speak. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but let's just roll with it. Or a half kill is also when the enemy is too low level compared to us. So in this case, it was both the case. The sprite, the flower we just killed, was too low level for the boy to get full weapon experience, so it doesn't matter whether he kills it or the sprite kills it. The sprite still receives full weapon experience from the flower because he's low enough level, and then shares half of that received experience with the boy. So that's what the half kill is. So I need a total of 10 more kills because the Tropicolor earlier actually already counted as 1 for our sword. So, now, normally you're supposed to go and rescue a lady from the witch's forest here, but you might just have noticed I just literally jumped through the wall there. The way this works is a bit strange. Essentially it has to do with those rope poles. Those rope poles you're supposed to use a whip with in order to be able to just jump across. That's the idea anyways. So got 2 backup kills right there, just in case stuff goes wrong. And yeah, essentially you're supposed to use a whip to jump across the gap, but I'm completely ignoring that part because the secret of mana is, well, let's put it this way, it's very exploitable in many areas, as you may have noticed already. So essentially what I did, for anyone who does not know the game, I'm supposed to have a third party member in my party now already, but I skipped freeing her from the clutches of the werewolves that have caught her. Also, those werewolves are actually pretty vicious and dangerous normally, but I'm going to ignore them for the most part. But, well, we never get her. So what does that mean? Are we going to do the entire run with just 2 characters? Well, wait and see. For now it's going to be 2 for at least quite a while. And here I need to try and get past 2 werewolves in a narrow corridor, and those are pretty dangerous to say the least. You want to try and get past them without getting hurt too much, or hurt at all preferably, because they can combo you. You don't really have any invulnerability for the most part when running through areas, so wolves can really mess you up just by comboing you. Also, you may see in this text box here, this is a really weird name. Like, a really weird name. The maximum amount of characters or letters you can have in your name normally is 6. The game can save up to 12. However, the name you just saw there, which was go 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 go, I think that was the correct amount. The name you just saw there had 12 times go in it. So that's kind of strange. What? Already leveled up? I thought I needed one more kill. That's okay now. We can just go. Alrighty. And... well... what does that name mean? The gist of it is, Seeker of Mana for some reason initiates all values with the highest possible number, and the highest possible value for a letter just corresponds to go, to save some space on dialogue sects. And, well, she is named 12 times go. So 24 letters, which actually loses us about 50 seconds over the course of the run, just because it's such a long name. Not much you can do about that though. Alrighty, and here we get to every casual player's pain, Spiky Tiger. This boss is actually pretty tough overall. Not for a speedrun though. Oh, I attacked too late. I needed to attack Spike earlier, now I need to get lucky for him to eat the sprite again so he stays in place. Please stay. Okay. Alrighty. And I just one-shot him. So... boom. What just happened? Spiky Tiger has about... actually I don't know the exact number anymore. 520 HP? It's a lot of HP, and I just one-shot him, pretty much. So what happened there is the reason why I leveled up the sword to level 2 and the spear to level 1. I essentially charged up the sword to level 2 and then used a second controller to swap out the weapon via menu, and suddenly I had a level 2 charge attack on a level 1 spear. The game gets really confused about what exactly is going on and just starts overcharging your weapon way beyond. So normally it takes like, normally it takes like 3-4 seconds until you reach the next weapon level, but because the game for some reason just keeps your bar at full, it literally increases your level of charge attack by 1 every other frame, which means 30 times a second I get another charge attack level. And to give you a frame of reference, the normal maximum for charge attacks is level 8. And that already deals massive damage. It's pretty substantial, but it also takes like 20 seconds to charge up. However, I'm attacking with level 70, 60 or 80 even, which means that's way higher for a charge attack, and essentially it caps out my damage, how much I can do. The most damage you can do in a single swing in this game is 999 damage, and then the enemy subtracts some defense off of it. But in short, as long as the bosses currently don't have much defense and not high enough HP, they will be a one-shot. But don't worry, this will not keep on for too long, plus it's actually kind of technical to get to all those quick kills efficiently and fast. So yeah, I will demonstrate what I just did in a second again, after we run through these areas. By the way, those fish, pretty strong overall. Also, I guess I'm not going to weapon level. So this fish just decided to stand there, which means he's going to attack. If he moves, I know he's not necessarily going to attack immediately, but if he just stands there, I know he's moving, and so I can just go past. So, charge attack to level 1, switch out to the sword, it suddenly jumps immediately to level 2, switch back to the spear, and now I have a level 2 charge attack on the spear, massive damage with an attack. I just split. You can't see the splits. I can't see the splits either, so it's kind of pointless. Oh well. Either way, I just did another little trick there. So, whenever you use the magic rope to get back to an entrance of an area, only the boy gets stuck in place and cannot do anything anymore. However, the sprite and also the lady, they could still move around. And so what I did there is I used the magic rope and then just walked into the cutscene trigger with the water summon spirit Undine, which gives you magic. And a pole dart weapon, which we never use. But gained Undine's power. So the sprite is going to have offensive magic, which magic in this game is really strong, but well, we have overcharge attack, so we're not going to really use it for offensive purposes. But also, magic allows you to open up doorways. It's basically like opening up switches and stuff like that. It's kind of convenient. And the lady would get defensive magic, like buffs, healing, sword magic, stuff like that. But we are not going to be having the lady in a party for a while, so, well, we're not going to be able to take advantage of that. Either way, magic is really powerful. Magic can also level. If you use a spell 12 times from level 0 to, you will level up to level 1. Then 13 times to level 2, then 15 times to level 3, etc. But only if you have sealed enough mana seeds. So we have learned that there's the mana seed of the Earth Temple, just at the Dwarven Village. I almost say it's the Fire Temple because everything is kind of fire in there, but it's actually the Earth Temple. But either way, up next we will be fighting against the Fire Gigas, and that can go wrong. We were in a marathon, let's go and save real quick. You would not normally save at all outside of 2 specific instances during a regular run, but you die really fast in this game. Well, not as fast as we died at the very beginning anymore, but still very fast if you get caught off guard. And that can happen to the best of players. You're just making one missteps, the game can exploit that to just kill you. Alrighty, now, here are stronger goblins. You really don't want to get caught by those, because they love using their boomerangs. The boomerangs are really strong, and let's put it this way, boomerangs are a horrible weapon in your hands. That's not entirely true, but let's just roll with that. But in the enemy's hands, boomerangs are crazy powerful and really, really strong. So yeah, by the way, you may have noticed that I'm sometimes walking in really rather strange ways, and that is in order for me to manipulate spawns. So here I'm going to run in a specific pattern, run up here, this guy spawns a dude, then run down left, this guy is going to spawn a dude as well, just before I'm going to hop across this gap. So this is how you're normally supposed to cross gaps with the whip. And it's also faster to do this rather than doing an awkward setup to jump through the wall, but that's for later. So either way, there was only one enemy on the left side, which makes that easier. And we are already through the entirety of the Fire Palace. Earth Palace, Earth Temple, good job. Alrighty, and this is Gnome. He would give us Earth Magic once we free him, but before that we fight against the Fire Gigas. For the Fire Gigas we have a very tight execution window. I need to immediately open up the window, the menu, switch weapon twice in order to start the overcharge, hit him, and then I don't know whether this is going to kill or not, just going to use a safety thing here. Alrighty, we got him. Because the thing is, Fire Gigas always uses area of effect spells to hit you. And you're supposed to be a fair bit higher level, so you would have more maximum HP. And you're also kind of supposed to have 3 characters in your party, which means the damage would get split 3 ways instead of just 2. So the short version is, if the sprite gets hit by this spell, he is going to die. The boy will barely survive it with a little bit of HP left. So there's that. Oh, and I just messed up. I was supposed to do the same thing with Undine. Use a magic rope and then run into the cutscene, but I messed up the menu. That's okay. Doesn't cost much time anyways.
Hey, yeah, can I go ahead and catch up on some donations?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Awesome. We've had a nice early start to this morning. We had $20 from Ghost Eye. RPGC, you are a legend. It's so great to see you. See so much generosity from the community. Yaga H.
Thank you.
Yaga H, everyone. Yaga H. Come on, let's hear. Well, I think I'm loud, by the way, on the mic, but I'll talk a little quieter. Tinglenator gave a $41.81 donation. Had some leftover money on my PayPal, figured I'd put it towards a good cause. All of my donation to naming a character in Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise, race Tingle. Claire the Adventurer gave $20. Glad to help out. Thank you very much. Rathgus with $5. I know it's not much, but I hope it helps. Every dollar helps, dude. Every dollar helps. And Harley Quincy gave $50 with no message. But thank you all very much for a nice start to the morning.
Indeed, thank you very much. I really, really appreciate your generosity, and let me tell you, it's definitely for a good cause here. Also, once again, thank you very much, High Spirits, for organizing that. Just kind of more or less on a whim. That's really crazy and awesome. So, not much happened in the meantime, just running through areas, trying to be efficient about it. And what else could I talk about? Maybe, ladies and gentlemen, last time I checked, there was actually still an open donation incentive for our next run, which I think is... I forgot the name of the game. Let me check that real quick. So, Tail Concerto. I actually have no idea what the game is about. I'm actually going to be curious about that. But there is an incentive for all photos for $50. Again, I'm not really sure what that means, but should be pretty awesome. So ladies and gentlemen, if you have maybe no idea what to put your money towards, but you would like to donate anyways, that might be a good choice, because that is going to be the run coming up right next. So, alrighty, now this ruins here is kind of the first time I can describe Secret of Mana in a nutshell, where I'm going to do specific weird actions, for example getting the sprite stuck here on the sword, but he is always going to hit the sword in order to get past it. Then I'm going to run way too far down left there in order to just manipulate the enemies in order to get them past other things. Then I'm going to go ahead and run over here, switch character, run past the zombie, because AI control characters do not lose stamina when you're running. Oh, maybe I should actually mention that you can only run if you have a full stamina bar, and you cannot change your running direction until you release the run button. Like right here, I have to release the run button and then you stop running. Running is 50% faster, so well worth it, but it's also kind of tricky to optimize overall. So, alrighty, this is our first encounter with the big bad evil guy who is called Thanatos. He kidnapped the lady in green and the dude in yellow on the left. The dude in yellow on the left is the lady that is not here, basically her love interest, and the lady in green on the right is her best friend. So we don't really have much of a reason between those two characters that we have right now to be here, but oh well. So this is the first boss. It's a wall. But ironically, this is the first boss who has an evasion rating. Thankfully that didn't happen, so that's nice. Oops. Alrighty, from here on out, with one exception of one boss, enemies will have evasion. So what that means is that about 40% of the time, enemies will just straight up dodge my attack, and there's nothing you can do about that. The game doesn't even give you any indication. So Secret of Mana is a little bit notorious for two things. One is AI control characters getting stuck everywhere and hindering your progress of getting anywhere. But with enough practice you actually can take it as a challenge and get really good at it. It's kind of neat. But the second one is that it feels like the hitboxes are just super weird and you're never hitting stuff. In reality, it's actually enemies and bosses evading your attack, and the game gives you no indication, no miss indicator for it, which is really unfortunate, because you don't know whether you just don't deal enough damage. Like with the green slimes at the beginning, they don't have evasion, But if you get a low damage roll, that means you're not dealing enough damage to damage them at all, and it just misses. And other times enemies have just straight up evasion, which means you don't hit them either because of it. It's kind of silly. So right now, instead of taking the cannon travel back to the Elven village, I'm immediately going to go ahead and just run over there. And not Elven village, the Dwarven village, excuse me. There's no elves in this game. And yes, a wall has evade, which is a bit of irony. But it's, again, as to why people think this game has horrible hitboxes. And let me tell you, it does have very questionable hitboxes. The detection on them is, however, quite fine. In fact, it's very generous, both ways, in you getting hit by enemies that you think you shouldn't get hit, and also you hitting enemies that you actually shouldn't be able to hit. The reason for that is, especially in boss battle, your range of attack weapons, melee attack specifically, is actually doubled. So I can stand way further away than you would think I should be able to stand away from and actually hit the bosses, which after this next boss here, well, the boss after this, it will make it really obvious, let's put it that way. Oops, come on, Spidey. And greens to you, KNBU, thank you, appreciate that. And ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions or anything like that, unfortunately my chat, or the chat that I am watching over on the High Spirits channel is a little bit out of the way, so please make sure to add Yaga or Yagamoth to it so it gets highlighted for me, so I can maybe answer your questions or anything like that. I would appreciate that. So, this boss here also has evade. Also, if we get a low damage roll, we are not going to kill him either. In short, we have actually approximately a 50% chance to one-shot him. And if we don't, I need to have a backup. So, what does a backup mean? In short, you may see me open up the menu with the second controller and then slashing afterwards. Oh, that was a low damage roll. And that is a character Moogle, which means I lose my charge attack. That means I have to redo it. So he's most likely going to hit the sprite here, or he would like to. But I'm going to use a barrel in order to protect the sprite from getting hit at all. And that is another miss. Again, the game gives no indication. And there we go. Boom. Thank you, Dark Shadow Rage. Alrighty. By the way, you may have noticed I haven't exactly kept up with the story anymore for a while now. And the reason is simple. Very soon I'm just going to skip all over the place and we're not going to be able to keep track of the story much at all. The short version here is that those guys, they stole the mana seed of water and we're supposed to bring it back. We actually didn't know that yet, but I just decided to go ahead and grab the mana seed of water because I know where it is already, and you don't have to go and talk to Luca in order to learn where they took the mana seed of water and stuff like that. Actually, I don't even know who tells you about that anymore. It's been a really long time since I read the dialogue. So either way, after this, we are going to go ahead and hope that Chapter Rocket doesn't kill us. Maybe I should go and save. So the upcoming boss has a very small chance, I don't know what it is, like 5%, 10%? More like, it feels like 1%, but very rarely. He will cast a spell immediately at the beginning of the battle, and then he could cast a second spell pretty much right afterwards and straight up kill us. It's incredibly unlikely to happen, but it would mean an instant death, and Seeker of Mana is not nice in that it would allow you to restart anywhere. Well, the remake does, but not the original. So, I'm just going to go ahead and hope that this doesn't happen. There's still some technical backup that I can do. I have a 0 to 4 frame window in order to open up the menu on the sprite in order to deny the damage, so to speak. But That's a pretty small window, and it's random whether it is 0, 1, 2, or 3, 3 or 4 frames. Oops. I accidentally stepped onto the switch with the sprite. Normally I want to step on the switch with the other controller because it's easier to master the text. So either way, this is the Empire. The Empire somehow caught wind of what we're doing and now is trying to kill us. Or something like that. The Empire is the big bad evil stuff. So, here, this is Jabberwocky. And I told you we have twice as much range in boss battles. And I literally just kind of wind slashed him. Like, the boy doesn't even bother moving up to this guy. So for some reason Jabberwocky's hitbox is actually... like, it goes from the middle of his body there to about a tile below his feet. I don't know why. It's really strange, but we just straight up kill him. Really easily like that. Alrighty, now we seal the mana state of water again. Talk to Luca. You could talk to Gemma here and get a whip orb if you really wanted to, but we don't really need that. Speaking of whip, I kind of wanted to level up that weapon too, but I don't feel like I need it. It'll be fine. Last time I didn't really need it either. Alrighty. Now, this first 45 minutes have been a bit of a back and forth between certain areas we've already been at. Now, the story actually gets a lot more straightforward and linear, and we are progressing through new areas at a more frequent pace, which is actually pretty awesome. This is kind of where I feel like the run kind of begins, more or less. It's not entirely accurate because upcoming is one of the more random sections of the game where you can lose a minute or two just because the enemies decide to not cooperate. But hey, we'll see. At least there's no risk of dying, so that's a plus. I say that as there technically is, but it's kind of unlikely. As usual, everything can go wrong. Just need to be prepared for it. But one thing I haven't explained yet. You see me open and close the menu on the second controller whenever I unleash one of my charge attacks, or overcharge attacks as I call them. And the reason for that is simple. It's actually a separate glitch involved in that. Whenever you open up the menu on the secondary controller, release the charge on the first controller, then close the menu on the second controller, and then immediately repress the charge button while the menu is closing. The attack is actually going to execute, but the game is not removing which charge level you are on, which means I can immediately use another charge attack as soon as my stamina reaches 100% from the same level of charge attack. So I'm going to demonstrate this here. Also on top of that, it's kind of nice to be able to tell which charge attack I'm going to get. So I'm actually looking at the bottom left where the boy's little menu is, and I knew exactly this is going to be the attack I'm going to get, because it essentially just flips, holy cow, that was really efficient. It essentially flips through all the attacks really fast. Like, you have up to 8 different charge attacks and 3 regular attacks or something like that. And which attack you get is based on which charge attack you have. Or more specifically, let's say every time I have a multiple of 10, it's going to execute a charge attack level 8. Every time I have yeah, something like that. And I know for specific actions where I will have high enough charge attacks or overcharge in order to deal maximum damage, but also I know which animation I'm going to be executing right there. Ouch, rumped. Speaking of rumps, rabbits. Hello. Oh, wrong way around. I like rabbits. Alrighty, so what do we do now? Well, we have the Springbeak. Springbeak is kind of a weird boss. He is the first boss to actively use a shield that it doesn't really tell you. In the beginning, you had a boss called Mantis Ant, where you saw him defending. You saw he was not receiving any damage when you played this casually. Also, that was 2 misses so far, that's a bit unlucky. And you hear a ding right there. The ding means I was too close to the boss. Because I just hit his beak. He has a shield, and his beak is his shield. When you hit his beak, with a regular attack, you are not going to deal any damage to him. So I need the sprite to be basically baiting the spring beak to be facing the other direction. And I really hope to hit this guy sometime. So actually, as I said, 40% chance to miss. That's unlucky that I miss this often. Some of those attacks were, actually most of those attacks were pretty much guaranteed to hit. If the 40% didn't jump into action, so to speak. It may not always look like it, but unless you hear the ding, I did have an opportunity to actually hit him. And even if you hear the ding, it's possible that your hitbox would first hit his body and then the beak, and it just missed the body and then still hit the beak afterwards and made the ding sound. Either way, while he's jumping around, the Seeker of Mana also considers height, and if the height difference between your characters and the enemy is too great, you also will not be able to hit him, so it's pretty difficult to hit the spring beak with weapons. However, if you play this casually, why don't you just throw some gem missiles at him? Or earth slides, depends on what you like to do. I recommend gem missile because it's more efficient of a spell, even if it does slightly less damage. So here we get Sylph. Also, earlier you may have noticed, hey, we didn't seal the mana seed of Earth. Because we didn't have to. And it's going to be pretty much the exact same tale here. We could seal the mana seed of Earth here, of Wind, but we're not going to because we don't have to. And keep in mind, the entire idea of our journey is to seal all 8 mana seeds to power up the sword all the way, so we will be able to unleash the full power of the mana sword. Well, we're using mostly the spear anyway, so it's alright. It is okay. So, main reason why we needed Sylph is for this thing here. There's not really much of another reason for us to actually get Sylph, aside from this one switch. Casually, there will be other uses for Sylph, such as the latest analyzer magic to tell you which weaknesses bosses have, or which magic you're supposed to use against certain switches and stuff. You can also balloon enemies, but we don't even have the lady in our party, so oh well. It's alright. Silence.
Hey, Yaga, can I do a couple of donations?
Oh yeah, go ahead. You're not silenced.
Sure. Okay, well, first we had $20 from RPGchick-a-thon.
Wow.
Hello, I'm glad to be supporting a great cause. Longtime viewer, first-time donator. Please put towards Hug the Frames. Greetings from the US. Thank you very much. This next one I'm going to butcher because I don't have any music to go with it, but let's find out how well I do. You ready? $20 from To All of the Dreamers. Now everybody move, can you get a little something gotta do? So better believe in, better believe in, better believe in yourself. It works better if you have lyrics or song music to go with it.
That's very nice, thank you. Alrighty, I take it that's it. So, I just had a 50-50 chance of sneaking past that enemy over there. Without getting hit, and we got the 50-50, so that's nice. Unfortunately, sometimes those enemies spawn here, and they make it pretty awkward for me to progress. So, really quick about the silence spell. It confuses your character and also silences them, so that means you could not cast any spells anymore, which is less than ideal, since we need the sprite to cast some spells. But also, more importantly, those owls love to just absolutely destroy characters that are currently silenced. So this owl is going to just hunt down the boy until he's no longer silenced. There's no indicator when the silence ends, so it's a bit awkward because it also inverts your D-pad controls, which means you're going to be running backwards with that character. By the way, including inside the menu. It is pretty awkward to say the least. So yeah, silence does that to you. for some reason. Alrighty, but upcoming, we actually have the last boss who does not have evasion. You can still miss him because those little mushrooms, the yellow ones on the field, are kind of a shield for him. Did I? Oh, whoops. I accidentally switched the weapon too early. So, this guy here is also the first boss who has more than 1000 HP, so no matter what, I will have to hit him twice. And I actually need to hit him. Unfortunately, I didn't right there. So that's slightly less than ideal. What? Okay. Which also means I need to redo my charge attack here. He has like 1100 HP. Could you please stop that? No, I need the sprite. No, that's just rude. And this is kind of how stuff can go wrong. Normally, the second attack from the boy, as I said, he has no evasion, should pretty much immediately be fine to hit him. But sometimes stuff goes wrong. So I just use a barrel there to protect the sprite from getting hit at all. And okay. I did not know which charge attack this was, but if it wasn't the fast one, the boy would have gotten hit before it connected with the boss. So I got lucky there. Alrighty, and here we find this cute little creature. This little guy is called Flammy. Well, he will be called Flammy. He's a little dragon mana beast type thingy, and he's pretty adorable and grows rather fast. Unfortunately, his parents are nowhere to be found, so we bring him back to the Mushroom King, who is going to take care of him. It's kind of adorable, actually. So, by the way, did you know that if you try to talk with Flammy here, you make that sound again? Just because I can. Alrighty. So, from here on out there's exactly one boss left that has less than 1000 HP, and that is the boss right next upcoming. And afterwards we will be going to go ahead and always have to hit the bosses at least twice. Sometimes even more than that. But that is going to be a theme. It's going to get more and more tricky and difficult to survive the boss battles with minimal supplies and resources. But for pretty much every situation, you have a plan, you have an idea, you know what you want to do, but as you may have just seen at the Great Viper, it can go just wrong. Speaking of going just wrong, apparently my cup is leaking somehow, so my water is not as much in there anymore as it should be, on a completely random note. Alrighty, now we are in the desert, and the cannon travel guy actually put us to the wrong place, and we are now lost in the desert. The idea of you is you wander around the desert until you find a sand ship. The way you quickest find a sand ship is by going up, left, down, right, or up, right, down, left, or up, left, up, right, or up, right, up, left. Any of those combinations will lead you to this place. Essentially, you go back to your starting location in a roundabout way. It's kind of weird. So, and this is also where our party gets split up, because the boy gets sent to the ancient room, the imaginary lady gets sent to the office of the commander, and the sprite gets sent to the kitchen. Well, I'm not sure what you're supposed to do in the ancient room, everybody is just walking around randomly. My theory is that you're just generating heat in the engine room by walking around randomly, just so the sand ship has energy or something like that? I don't know. Apparently we have walked around too much and now there's a fire in the back and the guards get confused and start walking around too. You should stop walking, guys, you're generating even more heat now. Oh well, whatever. So, either way, we get out of our little prison because they think we are spies from the Empire and stuff like that. Visit the kitchen where the sprite apparently ate all the food. Is that your friend? Show him out of here. Yep. I mean, why did you put this right into the kitchen? That's a horrible idea. Alrighty, now. Hell, brats have eaten all the food. We're finished! And they run immediately to the kitchen to check. And we say rats? When the sprite ate all the food? He just called himself a rat. Whatever. Here we find the imaginary lady who has now a physical manifestation. In reality, you're supposed to have had her in the party since quite a while, but this is kind of where we meet her for the first time, because your party gets split up and then you find each other again. So she is currently level 1 and has no weapons, no equipment, nothing. So pretty dangerous for her, but it'll be fine, probably. Alrighty, so normally the lady comes with the weapon, the claw weapon that you will be able to equip afterwards, after you get her into the party first, but we never initiated the lady in a sense that we never gave her a name, and that is what gives you the claw weapon, which also gives her the basic equipment. So we never actually acquired the claw weapon, which is the one weapon that we are missing at this point. But it'll be alright, we don't need it. There was actually at some point an instance where we wanted to have it. So there's that. Also, the lady just leveled up a little bit and gained... how much was that? Like 50 HP, a bit more than that. It's a lot of more health than she has now than before. It's more like 60. But either way, we are now off into the desert village. The other dude we talked with just basically tells you, hey, a rescue team is arriving, are you leaving? And you say, yes, I'm leaving, I'm not waiting for the rescue team. I'm just like, that's a weird question to ask when the rescue team arrives just now, but oh well. Alrighty, we just upgraded our equipment, or more specifically, not yet, I need to equip it still, but we are about to upgrade our equipment on everybody, and this is a pretty substantial upgrade, but the enemies in the upcoming area are still rather vicious and strong, so they have a pretty decent chance of just maybe not killing us, but holding us up for a lengthy amount of time. I also put frost weapon onto our weapons. And the reason for that is in order for us to freeze enemies so they will not be dangerous to us, like frozen enemies serve two purposes. For one, they will not attack you. We have about an 80% chance to freeze them on attack. And the other advantage is that AI control characters are not going to react to them. So now we have 3 characters, which means it's a lot easier to get stuck everywhere. And one of the flaws, I guess, of Secret of Mana is that you have to have everybody on screen at all points. You cannot go too far away from them, which means it's actually kind of difficult to run through areas with 3 characters without them getting stuck everywhere on one hand, but also on the other hand, them not getting hit everywhere, and then we cannot move on, etc. So the entire point is I need to be more careful, more deliberate, more effective in my controlling of spawns on enemies. Alrighty, I have actually a new strategy for this one here. I've not actually showed it off anywhere yet. And the entire idea is that I want to go ahead and cast a spell on this guy. Hopefully hit right there. And hit again. Boom! Perfect! Nice. That's the first time I pulled that off in a run, because I literally came up with that like 2 days ago. Essentially, he's like Tropicalo. He will burrow on the ground as soon as you hit him once. But I casted a spell just exactly like he will be hit. Hopefully anyways, he still has the evasion rating, so that can go all wrong because of that. And then I just hit him right there a second time before he burrows on the ground and insta-kill him. So essentially the spell analyzer normally supposed to tell you about the enemy, how much HP he has, what his weakness is, how much MP he has left, etc. But I simply use it to lock the enemy and boss into place so he cannot do anything. Also, you may have noticed, I just did a weird thing there. I talked with a dude, then walked him to the podium, and now the cutscene is all messed up. You're supposed to talk to the Scorpion army here on the right side, and after you're done talking, they are supposed to walk away and be gone. Instead, at the end of this cutscene here, they just appear rather than disappear. It's a bit strange. Just a little bit. But this is kind of a good illustration of how Seeker of Mana handles cutscenes and events in areas. This basically means that Seeker of Mana keeps track of progress in plots and events and actions like that in numbers. And essentially it tries to keep track of where you are in the current plot event. So what I did is I skipped the first step, and then it was always a little bit behind, but the cutscene text boxes were still advancing like normal. So the game got a bit confused, and it ended up resulting in a slightly faster cutscene. But I'm going to do the same type of thing here, in the Fire Palace. So I'm supposed to go into the Ice Palace. Don't worry, I'm going to go back there later. It's an all bosses run, which I would not normally do. But you're supposed to reacquire the Mana Seed of Fire from the Ice Palace that Santa has stolen in order to create a gigantic Christmas tree. I'm not even joking about that. And then bring it back to the Fire Palace so you can actually seal it in order to advance the story further. But I'm actually going to go ahead into the Fire Palace without getting the seed. And the way I'm going to be advancing is I'm going to skip a little trigger in the basement. So that trigger in the basement is a bit of a weird one, because all you do is essentially use Salamander magic in order to... Oh, no, no, no. I just can't reach it. That's really unlucky. So I need to use a backup. Okay. Alright, there we go. So, I actually went up a ramp right there. It doesn't look like much of a ramp, but it's a ramp actually that allows you to not normally progress up there. You're supposed to go through the basement into this area here. We still need Salamander's magic in order to go through here because of that orb just now that activated the bridge. But other than that, we would not need Salamander at all in order to get through here. But this is the reason why we pick up Salamander, just that one switch. But the entire event inside the Fire Palace is now one step behind. Which means, instead of telling us, hey, the Mana Seed of Fire has been stolen, we need to reacquire and retrieve it, the game is just going to not do anything, because it doesn't have anything programmed for as to what we are supposed to do when we are right there with that. Also, I just messed up the little sequence break here. I'm walking through the wall in a specific way. Also, another sequence break right here going on. I'm going to cast Undini's free spell, which activates the switch twice. And then, with very specific timing, I'm going to activate the next room transition. And I could skip the Minotaur now. I forgot, this is an all bosses run. I'm not skipping Minotaur. But you can just straight up run through the Minotaur into the next room if you wanted to. So, wait. I'm going to softlock here, aren't I? Hang on. I think I need to do this a little bit differently. Because I think the torches that are normally supposed to appear here are going to disappear here now. So... or appear here. So, I want to lure this guy over here. Actually, I don't want the lady to die, so I'm just going to heal her real quick. And the boy unfortunately got hit there. Come on. How did you hit the sprite over there? No, that's just rude. This guy has a ridiculous reach, I would like to point out. Uh-oh. This could get really awkward really quick now. I think the lady is going to get hit here because the thing actually delays. Okay, now I did get it. Please, let me hit this guy already. What is going on? I can't hit him right now. I'm not sure what's going on. I don't seem to be able to hit him. There we go. So, I hope it doesn't softlock me now, because that would be awkward. Because I've never done it this way. I should have probably thought this one ahead and not done the Minotaur skip right now. Alright, the thing didn't appear here. The mana city is here. Alright, we are good, we are fine. I was mildly worried that I would be actually soft-locked here now. That would have been really awkward. Whew, but it worked. So, we defeated the Minotaur, we sealed the mana seed of fire, and now we can just move on. We are going to go back to the Ice Palace soon-ish. So that will be a thing. But for now, we are just moving on in the story. Oh boy. I will probably want to restock my supplies sometime around once I realize they have gone too low. But for now, we are just moving on. So, the tricky thing about all bosses is that certain triggers you don't have to think about in regular runs, because you just ignore all of those bosses and skip everything, are going to be irrelevant now. Which means I'm just arriving in Northtown here. In Northtown you basically connect with a group of rebels. And one of those rebels is handing you a key later in the game, which allows you to enter the Gold Tower in Tasnica. No, not Tasnica. Gold City. And the thing is, while I don't need to have the code for the sewers right now from her right now in order to get into the sewers, because I'm going to skip that entirely pretty much, I still need to talk to her here right now. Otherwise, later on, I would need to talk to her separately 2 times in order to get the key to the Gold Tower. Alrighty, so I'm perfectly aligned with that wall. This NPC down there was supposed to actually stop me from advancing in order to get into this section here. But, well, he didn't. And the reason is because his trigger box just does not extend to all the way exactly the top of the wall. It's actually pixel perfect for you to align with that wall in order to be able to skip him, but you can just hug the wall and it'll be fine. So I'm going to go ahead and give some fairy walnuts to the lady and the sprite, just so they have magic again. Oops, you're not supposed to spawn. That's okay now. Alrighty, and here we are in the sewers. The sewers actually inhabits pretty vicious enemies. Those goldfish and those blue slimes are kind of scary. Especially the blue slimes are bad for you in a speedrun because they have always frost weapon, which means they have a pretty high chance of making your character into a cute snowman. Unfortunately, cute snowmans cannot walk, and if they could, they have the chance to disappear. Not really. Not exactly like that. Either way, you don't want to be snowman because that would cost you medical herb. That would need to recover your character, or if you don't want to invest a medical herb, you would need to wait until the snowman status wears off. It's just a mess. You don't want to get hit. That's the short version of it. Oops, I did not mean to go back inside. Alrighty, and here we are in Lag Town. It's actually called North Town, but it is incredibly laggy around here. Normally the game only allows 3 enemies at a time on screen. However, it will load an entire town of NPCs at once, which means up to 6 or 7 NPCs, I think. And they're just randomly walking around. And if you have a second controller active, that means you're going to be even more laggy. So you definitely want to deactivate any secondary controller or even tertiary controllers. Speaking of which, if you play this game on virtual consoles, the multiplayer functionality is always active, but if you're playing it on a Super Nintendo, you will need something like this, which allows you to plug in more than just 2 controllers to your Super Nintendo. It's kinda neat. It's a multi-tap. There's also some shenanigans you can do with a multi-tap, but we actually separated the categories into 2. Hit the snowman with fire? Well, that would not work in this game. Not usually. Oh well, we separated the categories into 2, with multi-tap and without multi-tap, as in 1 player 2 controller. The reason for that is, for the most part, that with multi-tap there's a slightly different route you can take that is about 2, 3, 4 minutes faster, but it relies on a 1 in 16 chance for you to get a chest drop. And that's super awkward, because you're pretty far in, and for the most part the randomness in Secret of Mana is not going to lose you too much time, unless the game really trolls you, which that's kind of rare, but it can happen. But either way, having to rely on the 1 in 16 chance for a chest to drop from an enemy is a bit annoying in order to get through areas. So, alrighty. Activated the second controller right here in order to step on the switch with 1 controller and walk out the door with the other one. Otherwise, those blue slimes would immediately attack him as soon as the text box from the switch cutscene would be over. This way I avoid that entirely. I'm also going to be activating the second controller just around here for a little bit longer. Also, I messed up. I need to have the lady in the lead. So this is supposed to be a lot smoother, and use the second controller to run into that door a bit quicker, but it's not really much quicker now. This next room, after this one, I need to hit the imp on the right. I didn't hit him, so that's a bit of a problem, because we will get hit as a result. But you are just kind of relying on hitting the enemy. There's not much agency you have over that. Cure water, alright, whatever. So I waited there until this guy decided to cast or spawn a little minion. And this actually despawned imps in this room here, which the imps are some of the most vicious and annoying enemies to deal with. So being able to just wait a little bit until he spawns a minion and not having to deal with imps is way more convenient. Also, I'm really not sure why I'm still dropping flames. Going to wait real quick here. Hopefully the frame dropping will stop. Actually, High Spirits, are you around? I'm going to switch Twitch server real quick.
to hit, you guys. Next up is Tail Concierto, but we still have 0 out of $50 for the all photos round.
Did you say that directly through the stream?
Sorry, what was that, Yaga?
Did you say that directly through the stream because you needed to? Because...
Yeah, oh no. Yeah, I did. You're right, didn't I?
Yeah, I'm still dropping frames.
Okay. Well, just quick donation update, you guys. T-Spot donated $14.77 and just said good luck. Okay, Yaga, you can go back to work.
Alrighty, thank you. It's still dropping frames, but you're not going to miss a whole lot. I'm just going to try and hit this guy twice, and hopefully that's not going to result in any trouble. I think the audio should be fine overall. I switched servers, but that didn't help. I hoped it would be the connection over north to Germany, but it's actually somewhere local in my area apparently.
Okay, then don't worry about it.
Yeah, the boss was no problem. I just hit him twice and he died. Worth noting about the Doomswall, you don't want to kill both eyes, otherwise that results in a pretty brutal special phase and attacks, so he can really kill you quickly and easily, so you want to avoid that. So I recently-ish upgraded my internet, or more specifically, I should have 6 times as much upload, but I guess that doesn't help if your ISP is just no good. Sometimes anyways. For the most part it's been fine, but the last 2 days has actually started dropping frames again, so hope it's not too bad. No, it is actually pretty horrible right now. I have literally 72% of my frames dropped. I'm just going to advance the cutscene right here and wait a little bit, hoping that on the vampire it's going to be better. Otherwise I may need to restart my router and hope that works. Which shouldn't take too long. Actually I'm going to restart my router right now. Sorry about that.
Okay, well I guess I'll talk through my channel then. While he's restarting the router. That might take a couple of minutes. I guess we could just pause for now. So yeah, I just wanted to say that no one heard earlier. We still have an incentive coming up for the next run, Tail Concierto, which is the all photos % run. I haven't gotten any donations for it yet. Hi. Well, balance now is not going to matter because it's not saying anything. But yeah, so if you want to see the all photos run and keep our 100% streak of being able to reach every donation goal so far, get your donations in for that. I am listening in for when he comes back. Well, I can't because in order to stop an echo from happening when someone else is talking, I have to talk through my laptop, not through my actual desktop. So that's why the audio is different during a run, because I'm using a different microphone. Otherwise, you guys would get echo, and you guys have already had plenty of echo. Don't need any more echo. And this is easier for me because it allows me to set up things better. We're $50 away so far. Yeah, Yaga should be back though. Someone has.
Alright, Yam should be back. Looks like I still have the same trouble though. Sorry about that.
Don't worry, Yaga. Stuff happens.
Yeah. Right now, well, never mind. I shouldn't say anything. It looked like it stabilized for a second, so I'm just going to try and describe as well as I can what is happening. Up here we have the vampire. What I'm going to try and do is hit him initially as soon as he jumps. Then I'm going to immediately initiate the overcharge attack. and then afterwards I'm going to start casting slowdown on him. The idea is that I want him to be stuck in place for as long as possible. And I'm essentially positioning the sprite in a way where he will be eaten by the vampire, because that's the action he would take after getting hit, so to speak. Alrighty, vampire actually went almost perfectly right there, just a minor hiccup where I missed one hit. So that's kind of how you would like the vampire fight to go. Actually, let me check something real quick. Nope. I was thinking maybe Steam or something like that was updating or something similar. Does not appear to be the case. I'm going to reduce my bitrate. Hopefully you kind of see a little bit more. Don't need that much bitrate normally anyways, so it should be okay. Alright. So, alrighty. What I would normally do is I would normally go and kill off the lady right now in order to do a little skip of the next boss, but, well, since this is all bosses, we are going to just go and straight up defeat him. In a one controller all bosses run, it would actually be more efficient to initially skip him and then come back later. But in one player 2 controller, where I can two-shot him anyways, or my method of killing him would not really change much at all, it's not really going to matter in the end. So, the rebels essentially tell us, hey, the Emperor, he wants to make peace. He does no longer want to be that horrible, terribly person that he has been so far, and we are invited to a banquet. So, of course, we believe him. And we go to the banquet, where we promptly go ahead and get asked to, well, check out certain rooms from the inside that are for people that are not supposed to leave. Specifically, they throw us into jail. But kind of like Chrono Trigger, kind of like a few other games, I guess, they forget to take away our weapon. They decide to, you know what, we're just going to throw you down into this hole where our little minion is going to take care of you. I guess they are more like making this a gladiator fight, where we're supposed to have a fighting chance, but honestly, that's just a terrible choice on their end, if you ask me. So the entire idea right now is that I want to go ahead and hit this guy. But hitting this guy is actually rather difficult, because he has a lot of times where you just straight up cannot hit him until he starts moving on stuff like that. Oh, that went really well. That's kind of unusual. Metal Mantis is a lot like Mantis, not exactly the same, but he has a lot of times where you just straight up cannot hit him. He can defend while he is spewing out that laser, you cannot hit him, and stuff like that. So you need to just work your way around those windows of opportunity in order to hit him. So, and that worked out pretty well. Next up, we are going to go ahead and have people clap. Clap, clap. And then you run past. Make sure to not anger the crowd that is clapping for you, because they just need to go ahead and clap, clap, and then you can go past. Essentially, they always clap at the beginning, and the clapping has a pretty large radius, and sneaking past it, while not impossible, is not recommended. Either way, there's enemies all over the place. You can actually sneak past those two guards that were standing on the left side and ignore the enemies that are all in here, pretty much entirely, because there's no enemies in here if you do that. But, well, we're going to go ahead and not do that this time around. Because we are just straight up running through the area the normal way. More or less normal way, I guess. We're still killing stuff way quicker than it should be. Alrighty, now we are up against Mech Rider number 2. So Mech Rider number 2, what he does to you is he just tries to hit you in rather inconvenient ways. And unfortunately I kind of messed up the initial setup, but it should be alright anyways. We kind of won. So Mech Rider number 2, the idea is that you stay at the very bottom of the arena and he will never really do anything to you until you hit him twice. But because one of my characters was just slightly too high up, he decided to dash across the area, and so I needed to lure him back over by standing in the middle of the arena. It's kind of specific. Six times as much when it's working is great, but 6 times 0 is still 0. Yeah, I guess that's right. Either way, this is King Truffle. He tells us to bring him back home, but we never do so, so I guess we are just bringing him along on the journey, because why not? Alrighty, now I'm actually going to go ahead and go the wrong way. I'm not supposed to be here. Yeah, this is not where I meant to go. Uh-oh, I'm lost again. It's southeast from here. There, this is where I'm... It's a little bit silly. So, my next order of operation is, since this is all bosses, instead of going straight for the end of the game, I'm going to go and do a little bit of a different thing than usual. So here, in Gold Town, you would not normally have enough money to buy equipment for all of your characters, because this is really expensive. So you would need to grind a fair bit in order to afford all of this. But, thanks to our little money glitch, we don't really have that trouble. And having a better equipment for the upcoming bosses is going to help us tremendously. This will essentially just almost entirely negate the damage that would one-shot us in most instances for a long time to come. In regular runs you would not go ahead and buy any equipment whatsoever because you just don't need it. Since it is kind of a short enough run that you can just try and sneak past all the enemies without getting killed along the way. Also, speaking of stuff, I need to briefly remove some items from my inventory, otherwise I won't have enough space for the later ones. So that's that. Alrighty, and now we are in Gold City. This is where we need to talk with this dude here on this place, who will tell us that, hey, there was this spy from Tasnica or something like that that stole the key to the Gold Palace. And we happen to know who that spy is, and that is Mara. This is why earlier I talked with her in order to get the code for the sewers, otherwise she would tell me the code for the sewers right now instead of giving me the key to the Gold Tower. Gold Tower inhibits 2 bosses, so of course I have to get in there. Inhibits. And there we go. Got the Gold Tower key. So the bosses in the Gold Tower are not usually the problem. In fact, most of the time, getting to the bosses casually is more difficult, even though it's pretty short stretches, honestly. The difficulty comes mostly from you don't have proper equipment yet, or at least most likely you don't. Since, well, you're not really expected to go through here quite yet. Or something like that. However, you're free to go here anyways. So the idea for me is that I'm just going to run straight through here. Those wolves would actually pretty much obliterate my party. They 2-shot the sprite and the lady and 3-shot the boy if I did not upgrade my equipment. But thanks to me having upgraded equipment, it's not that much of a worry. So here we have the blue spike. Blue spike is a lot like Spiky Tiger. I want him to stick around on the ground so I can actually hit him. Unfortunately, he decides to not do so, but he always will jump into the exact middle of the arena after his initial goal. So I just feed him the lady, so to speak. I want him to eat her. This is both the least damaging thing he can do. Also, here's a fake explosion. This is both the least damaging thing he can do, and also gives me more opportunities to actually try and hit him. Boom, he's there. So if you ever have trouble with the Spiky Tiger or Blue Spike, just feed them a character. It is way less damaging than them jumping around and hitting your entire party if they just very controlled eat one character at a time. So basically you need to get lucky that he doesn't jump up to the towers on the side, but at least when he doesn't jump up he will guaranteed eat the character as long as you're in the proper position. Alrighty, next up we have immediately another boss. By the way, this is one of the reasons why I absolutely love this game. It is essentially a boss rush for the next boss to the next boss. It's really awesome. And we have Gorgon Ball here. Gorgon Ball actually is going to be a bit tricky, hopefully not too bad. I deliberately have him attack my characters here. I'm actually trying to have him only attack one character so I can switch to the other. But Gorgon Ball, when you're too far away, he casts Earth Slide on your entire party. Which, that's a lot of damage. You kind of want to avoid that. And so, if you are close melee combat with him, he actually has pretty much wrestling moves, honestly. So there were only 2 bosses in here. There's also a mana seed in here that I could seal, but I just don't have to. There's also Summon Spirit of Light that is awaiting me there, but again, I don't really need it. So we're just going to ignore this for now. Next up, after you complete Gold City, you could go ahead and get Luna in order to seal another mana seed of the moon and do all those kinds of things, but again, I don't really have to, so I'm not going to. Next up is the Temple of Darkness. Ooh. If you are looking to grind a bit of money and levels early on in your casual playthrough, this is one of the best places to go for. Temple of Darkness is kind of a straightforward path to go. You activate the switch, this activates a little thing over there that allows you to jump across the gap with a rope, or a whip I guess. And then you go through those slidey tunnels. Fun fact, if you enter those slidey tunnels with 2 characters at the exact same time, you will actually slide twice as far, which is less than ideal because usually we'll be stuck in out of bounds. So don't do that. Either way, after just kind of making a bit of a roundabout way to get back here, we arrive over here. So, now I need to hit this switch in order to open up the thing on the right. Now we would need to walk all the way back, or use a magic rope to get back to the beginning and walk back over there. But alternatively, I can just use my last barrel here and jump to the right. Alrighty, rope pulls are a little bit broken, to say the least. Let me real quick explain to you how that works. The short version, I guess, is that rope pulls literally give you the ability to walk through walls immediately as soon as you hit them once. However, normally you cannot walk during that, so you have to pull some shenanigans in order to walk while being able to hit the rope pull at the same time. But alternatively, the way rope pulls work is you need to stand in the correct tile, have the correct weapon equipped, and then hit the rope pull. That's all it checks for. It doesn't check which rope pull you hit. It doesn't check for you to hit the correct one over on the other side of the gap. You can hit the rope pull right there where you are, and then it will just jump you across the gap. And that's exactly the technique I used. Essentially, when you equip a barrel, for some reason it makes that really strange attacking hitbox that I don't really understand, to be honest. It just attacks. Boom. Also, Red Slime is not really much of a danger because he is kind of weak. Because we have upgraded armor. You're not supposed to have it yet. So yeah, what I did is I used the barrel after stepping onto the correct tile where the game knows, okay, you can now jump across. Face to the right, use a barrel, and then it just jumps me into my facing direction. And so I jump in the wrong direction. It's really easy to get stuck in walls too, if you do that by accident. So that would be less than ideal. So we level up a bunch. Hopefully not too much. There we go. And that's all we needed. That was Lime Slime. And we are out of here for now. This is the Mana Seed of Darkness and also Shade. Once again, we don't really need to bother with sealing that. It'll be fine. So initially I'm just going to take the normal route up this mountain. Because I'm actually lacking a few resources in order to shorten this a little bit more efficiently. So I'm just going to save the resources and take more or less the normal way. But here is how you want to go up this mountain in a speedrun sense. I hit the wrong button there. I need to hit up. There we go. So, rope pulls, again, kind of broken. So, what I'm doing there, stop, I need to actually not have him unconscious, that's rude. Sleep Flower makes your character unconscious. So either way, rope pulls are pretty broken in this game. And what you do with them is you just use an item, walk into a certain direction with a second controller, and then hit the rope pull. And you can just walk through the wall for an extended period of time. You can also use a spell instead, that works too, rather than an item. So it's really easy to just walk through the walls in this game, if you have a rope pull close by. Or there's also an alternative that you will get to see later, where I'm using something else to walk through walls. So these are the trials. By the way, I also just jumped through the wall because of another weird quirk, I guess. So certain NPCs make you gather next to them in order for your party to be in position for the cutscene. Well, they basically temporarily allow your characters to walk through walls again, and I just used a level 1 sword attack in order to position myself, walking through the wall in, let's say, the wrong spot there. That's not what the game expects me to do, but I just do it. Execute the level 1 sword attack, initiate dialogue with the NPC, and then it would probably be quicker to actually kill those guys in hindsight. Yeah, probably should just do that. So, you may have just seen that the boy spirit just disappeared. This is not what I meant to do. This is not what I meant to do at all. Oh boy. Unequip the boy, which is less than ideal. the idea is basically if you kill off your own characters, the doppelgangers are going to, the corresponding doppelganger is going to disappear too. They don't have that much HP. I can actually one-shot them, and it's it's really laggy. Especially would be more laggy if we still had 3 enemies here. But they can't hurt us if we have current equipment on, which is why I figured it would be more efficient for me to just go ahead and unequip the stuff and then get killed. But again, I didn't really consider that I'm actually pretty low on resources, so I should probably not do that. Because the way you do this normally, you just run into this area here and have 2 characters killed immediately because you never upgraded your equipment, so dying is pretty quick. And then you revive 1 character and die with the last character too. So that way you take care of those enemies rather quickly. So let me actually refresh High Spirits channel here real quick, because I'm not entirely sure I have gotten the latest messages. Oh, well, that's awkward. So, alrighty, we just defeated doppelgangers. Now, this one here is going to be a little bit debatable as to whether I need to defeat this guy or not. Wait, I can't, because I can't get in there. Never mind. This is not really a boss, basically. It's just a regular enemy that has boss music attached to it. So, I most likely don't have to kill it, question mark? Because right now I couldn't, because I would need to sit through more cutscenes in order to do so. So either way, we just did most of the things, not everything, in order to get through here quickly. But we still have the ice gigas that I need to revisit in order to kill, but it's actually quicker to just land there with Flammy and briefly go in and kill him. So this is the watermelon boss. You actually normally somewhat skip him. In fact, you die to him in a regular 1-player 2-controller run just because that's the efficient way to do. It's a bit weird to explain, but I can do that once we go for the ice gigas, I guess. But this guy here, he has a lot of HP, and the first thing he does is he casts wall. Usually. Sometimes he decides to use another spell, but after he uses wall, he will start casting burst, as long as, or sleep flower I guess, as long as your oopsie cactus are in position to get hit by that. And I just made a mistake right there. The mistake was that I thought I had the lady selected in order to do the mini buffer. Now I need to redo my chargeback. Either way, he will always target the closest character. In fact, that is pretty much what most bosses do anyways. They target the closest character in order to, well, deal damage to them. And this guy is a bit weird in that he technically has 2 phases, where if you walk away from him, he will jump up into the air, lose his legs, and then just spin around, kind of like the spiky tiger would spin around. But because I just literally lodged the hitbox of the lady into his hitbox, he never ends up moving. So he never ends up jumping, and I can just attack until he's dead rather quickly. Plus, thanks to having upgraded armor, I don't even need to worry too much about my characters dying. That's kind of a plus. Alrighty, now I need to go ahead and defeat 2 enemies. So ladies and gentlemen, in chat, please tell me, should I run through the underground dungeon or should I use a backwards entrance that is a bit more complicated to get to, but I could actually show off some other stuff? Feel free to tell me. Because right now, I'm actually going to go ahead and go and finish off the ice gigas real quick. We like complicated? Alrighty, sounds good. Alrighty, let me explain something real quick. I said you would normally, in a regular run, die to this guy. So, here we are at the Ice Palace. The Ice Palace, the reason why I didn't go here earlier is because this is actually a pretty rough area. There's some enemies that hit you very quickly, very harshly, and you take a lot of damage, and you get held up everywhere. Now I have better equipment, it's way easier to just ignore all of those guys and just run past whatever. So that makes it more efficient on that end. But here, the Ice Palace is actually one of 3 areas where if you die, you are actually not game overing. Essentially the way the game initiates this is as long as you have not completed the Ice Palace yet, there's a shield, or as we call it, the Santa shield in this case, where instead of dying after or game overing after you get killed, you have your characters get thrown out the front door, the boy is revived, and the lady and the sprite are still dead. So if I were to die right now, this is exactly what happens. And this is... that shield basically is removed as soon as you enter the Ice Country. However, if you land here with Flammy in front of the Ice Palace, you immediately get the shield, but it never gets removed because you never end up leaving the Ice Palace towards the Ice Country. You're not expected to be here with having the flaming drum, and so the game doesn't really have a use case for what to do when you basically just fly away with Flammy. So you keep that shield, and you will, instead of dying anywhere, you will just get thrown out towards the Ice Palace front door. I'm not entirely sure how that works, but essentially you kind of skip the watermelon boss by dying to him, making the entire sequence a little bit faster. Oops. I need to actually tell no, I don't want to leave. Be gone! By the way, the backwards ray is probably a bit quicker, but because you don't normally kill all bosses with 2 controllers, I don't actually know that. We'll see. So, this is the Ice Gigas. You hit him twice, and then he dies. Well, that's if you hit him. He's kind of like the Fire Gigas, except now that we have proper armor, he is not terribly dangerous. Plus, you would have 3 characters here anyways in a run where you go him directly. Plus, on top of that, he is not the most dangerous anyways. His attack power with spells is pretty low. Like, even if you have current equipment, he's not going to deal all that much damage. He will use a lot of spells, and it's kind of difficult to hit Gigas type enemies because they decide to teleport around all the way all the time. So that makes it a little bit weird, I guess. Acquire the boomerang orb, hooray! So, now we acquired the Mana Seed of Fire that we already sealed in the Fire Palace. And that's all we need to do here. We just needed to defeat the Ice Gigas. So, next up, we are going to... let me check real quick my resources. 2, 3, 3, alright. After one more couple of wishes, I need to restock a little bit. I would also need to use up other stuff. Oh well, we'll see. So, I'm going to do a weird little trick here. I'm going to do that twice in this run because you guys decided it's going to be complicated. So this is Nico. He is in the Ice Country and is literally the only save point in the entire game where he can save at. After landing with Flammy directly. So, what that means is that the game normally, how it defines or saves where you currently are in the game is by checking which room you have entered last. So then it saves that into the save file. However, because you landed with Flammy, there's nothing saved in that variable, and the game literally just saves null, nothing in there. So what this means is essentially that we now have a save file that you cannot normally load because it will just crash if you try to load it normally. That can just happen casually, it's kind of awkward. What I can do now is I do the soft reset, but an extended one. I hold start, select L and R for a little bit of time, and this screen here is where I'm going to be landing on. So, I'm holding that, and now the game has not yet deleted which variables or where I am at. Then I load the save file, it lands me in that weird cutscene there, and suddenly my characters are invisible. In that first cutscene, the game just hides your characters by default. Like, it just decides to go ahead and hide them. And hidden characters, they're normally only for cutscene purposes. You're not supposed to be able to control a hidden character. Let's put it this way, makes this entire ordeal a little bit awkward, I would say. So, also need to go ahead and check. What do I use here? 3, 2, 3. This is a real jump for now. So either way, if you use a... I don't even know why that happens. Oops, I'm a dummy. Messed up. If you use a healing item, it allows you to make your characters visible again. So the lady is still invisible. And we are in a text box. So because we still have an invisible character, we can literally just walk through walls while a text box is active. Or any event for that matter happens, because the game thinks, oh, you're still in cutscene mode, you're supposed to be able to walk through walls. And this is kind of what we take advantage of. So I'm doing this entire dungeon here, quite literally, backwards. Because this is the efficient thing to do right now. So I'm essentially traversing this screen here backwards, which is also why I don't need to get all the mana spirits at all. Hit those 2 switches, and can I? No, I'm going to normal way. I don't know whether this is going to work in this state. Okay, unfortunately the invisible lady can still get stuck on terrain. She cannot automatically walk through walls, only when events are happening. Hello, let me through. Thanks to having actually decent... Oh, right. Right. Right, I need to go through walls a little bit differently here. I forgot about this. It's been so long that I've used this kind of method of basically going through this place here. Alrighty, and now we activate the switch, and suddenly boss fight. So, of course, you're not supposed to go through here this way around. You're supposed to go through the left side, defeat a Hydra, and then you go through the other side and defeat a Kettlekin, basically a second Kilroy, and that makes this entire ordeal a lot quicker overall. Also, the boy is stuck in a wall. Whoopsie. That's okay, I can just reset the room. But essentially, I just skipped the entirety of the Grand Palace. I will still have to go back for the bosses in order to defeat them, but thanks to actually having decent techniques, I will be able to do so later. In fact, I could have done so technically earlier if I were to use a multi-tab, but this is a no multi-tab run. Although I will use it as a backup in case it all goes wrong. So this is Hexus. Hexus is actually my favorite boss of the entire game. So he's kind of complex and interesting in my opinion as a boss. Also, she used Pygmus Glare on the lady, which apparently doesn't deal all that much. Never mind. She's dead now. I was about to say which apparently doesn't deal all that much damage, but yeah. Lady's still dead. No, she's actually dead. Now I can revive her with a couple of wishes. And Hexus is dead. Alrighty. Hexus basically has a lot of magic defense, but casually it's usually still more efficient to just defeat her using spells anyways, because that's a guaranteed hit. You don't have to worry about getting too close to her, because she has more or less a pulsing AoE, where she just pygmies your character, makes them small little characters, and it does a lot of damage. The small cactus actually have no defense anymore, so you will take a tremendous amount of damage. Actually, I think that your defense is quartered rather than no defense, but same concept. So either way, here we have Mech Rider number 3. A little bit too early. It's okay though. Mech Rider number 3 is actually easier in the original game here compared to Mech Rider number 2. Ironically, in the remake, this is one of the most vicious bosses that you will be fighting. So this guy, he casts Wall on himself, which reflects spells, and then he tries to buff himself, and after he would get himself buffed, he would actually start dealing pretty massive damage with pretty nasty spells. But because he has Wall on himself, he bounces the spell that should buff him off his own wall to my party. So he never gets buffed, and he just tries that over and over and over again, and never gets to hit me. On top of that, he just tries to get onto my vertical position area in order to run me over, but he never gets to do that because I'm standing at the bottom of the arena. Alrighty, and we just raised the sunken continent, and now it's sinking again. And now we are supposed to go into Tasnica. I'll do so soon, TM. We could also directly go into the Mana Fortress and finish off everything else, but I still have unfinished business in the sunken continent that I need to attend to. So I'm going to get invisible cactus again. Oops, don't load because that will crash the game. Alrighty, we're going to get invisible cactus again. I was trying to brainstorm just a moment ago whether I could actually get invisibility of the little guy otherwise. There's another way of getting invisible cactus. It's a bit of a weird and roundabout way, where if you get eaten by one of those lizard enemies, your cat there gets made invisible briefly, just for as if he was in the belly of one of those lizards. But if you use a magic robe while they are eaten, you would have a permanently invisible cactus without doing these kind of shenanigans here. But there's not really a good way of doing this right now, so I'm going to go ahead and just do the standard way. I save warp into this beginning cutscene where all my cactus get made invisible. Alrighty, and the way we do this, once again, start holding start select L and R for like 3-4 seconds. Right here. This saves where we currently are at. Load the save file with the corrupted save because we landed at the Frost Forest Nika. We get sent automatically to Potos village here. And let's see, 2, 4... one will be fine. Make one character visible again, so we actually can interact with stuff, let's put it that way. Just one, not two. And then we go back to the sunken continent. So, there's actually a way of getting out of bounds in the first area here, without there being any NPCs around. But with NPCs around, it's really easy, if you have invisible character, to just get out of bounds here, which is what I'm going to be doing after I buy some basic equipment from this guy. So, here, this is the reason why I bought or generated so much money. Because those pieces of equipment here are incredibly powerful, like pretty crazy insane. And I don't even have enough money for them. Huh, that's surprising. So let me try to sell a little bit of stuff, just so we hopefully have enough money. So we do have enough money now. So, those items are incredibly insanely expensive, but also the best item or equipment in the entire game that you can actually buy. I'm going to also restock on items the normal way, because I can right now, and it makes it also easy for me to keep track of things. I want to also restock on chocolate. So, alrighty. Now, I want to equip everybody. With those slightly stronger pieces of equipment, our defense increases from 139 to 240. So that's a lot more damage reduced. It will still not be sufficient in order to survive too well. Alrighty, so now what I want to do is I want to despawn Nico, I think. Also I use the second controller now, and now I just walk out of bounds. That's all I do. So the weird thing here now is going to be, I need a second character out of bounds that is actually invisible. So the way I can actually talk with characters while I'm not even close to them is because invisible characters, they don't update their position or the distance between other units. Which means this guy here is considered to be right next to me, so I face to the left with an invisible character, press the B button, and then I talk to him. And now we have all the characters out of bounds, so this is the complicated way of doing stuff. Also the area looks a little bit strange because this is not how it's supposed to be normally. And then we go down here. And boom, we are in the underground palace with way better equipment than we are supposed to have, so that makes that a lot nicer in order to traverse here. I still have invisible characters, and they're going to be visible again once we are through here. So this is one of the most dangerous areas to traverse in glitchless category, because again, you don't have any real armor at all. And the difficulty with this is essentially that everything one-shots you. Like, literally everything at this point. But also, it's really difficult to manipulate spawns. Unlike other areas, these areas here don't really have a good technique or practice yet in order to not get caught everywhere and hit everywhere. So it makes it rather difficult overall. So this guy here, he's going to deal 1 damage with his acid rain, but actually curiously enough, aside from that, he's one of the most dangerous bosses that I can still face, because acid rain reduces my defense, and his physical attacks would actually deal pretty substantial damage right now, if he were to ever hit me. But this poor fellow, probably not going to get to it. So this was Hydra, and Hydra is down. There is one more boss that I need to backtrack to, and that is the Kettlekin. I could go through the underground way, but instead there's an easy way to get there right now, because we just choose the complicated initial route to get out of bounds here. Also, I kind of give up keeping track of the cutscenes here, because they are all over the place. Hexus is the lady there on the left that we already defeated. Or was, I guess. She doesn't even know about it yet. I guess we're time traveling or so. Yes, I've heard that from quite a few people actually that played Secret of Mana casually. In Switzerland over here, and also Germany, we did have Secret of Mana as one of those big box games that came with the entire guidebook. I didn't mind him to go in here. But that came with the entire guidebook that allows you to just, well, go all the way through being literally guided. And I personally kind of needed that when I was a kid, so I'm kind of happy it came with that. Also, by the way, I just go backwards through here and then back in here, and suddenly we are at the Kettlekin. Kinda neat. Either way, the guidebook described that there is really good equipment to be bought there over there at the Nika, but if you're not the explorer type of person to just run around the entire area and maybe you're actually unlucky and accidentally despawn the Nika, you will never know that there's another shop right there that has the best equipment. So trying to survive through the Pure Land with that kind of set of equipment is incredibly difficult already, with the upgraded equipment that I have right now, by the way. But normally you don't have enough money to buy it, so it will take you a while. until you will be able to afford everything. Since you need to grind against enemies that pretty much can one-shot you, even with the latest equipment from before that we had right before. And so it makes it rather dangerous. By the way, are you around high spirits? I think we are going to probably go up a bit more overestimate than I originally hoped for. Just kind of as a heads up. Either way, these were the last bosses, and now we're going to go ahead and defeat them more or less in sequence now. So
oh, that's fine. We'll be alright. We're gonna get ahead later today anyways.
Alright, fair enough. But yeah, Pure Lance is going to take a while here. Because, once again, one of the main reasons why I love this game is it's just the boss rush, and Pure Lance is kind of the ultimate boss rush, really. It's pretty awesome like that. So, we actually have the latest equipment now. We still take damage from those guys. We are not completely invulnerable or immune to them, which kind of speaks volumes about how strong they are. It's not much damage anymore because we are fully upgraded and have decent-ish levels, but it's still really easy to die or get hit by everything, especially since I'm not used to running through this area. At least not anymore. Either way, you normally casually play through. You want to grind against those enemies until you have enough money to buy the better equipment. So there's that. So this is Dragonworm. In my opinion, he is arguably the boss that casually will give you still the most trouble, even if you have all the proper equipment. In Glitchless, he is probably the boss that poses the most danger to the entire run. Because, again, in Glitchless, you don't stand around and farm money, you don't have an easy way of making money, so you just run through everything without proper armor at all. So this guy here, his movement is incredibly erratic, and he likes to cast spells and just hit you all over the place, and makes it rather difficult to deal with him. You saw the lady there just getting pygmied. The pygmy status actually makes your character lose a tremendous amount of defense. So having your character being pygmied and then immediately comboed with 2 more hits because he can hit you up to 3 times if he feels like it, can make that really quick of a death for your characters or your entire team if you are not prepared for it. And well, in Glitchless, every single spell, every single time he hits you, he just one-shots the character. You do use spells against him, so you lock him into place most of the time. Oh, freeze breath on the wrong guy. We can't really have that. I used the barrel to deny the freeze breath because that turns you into snowman. No, stop! No, go away! No, no! And this guy still deals a ton of damage. But he should be dead in 1 more hit. Ooh, this is dangerous. Okay, now I need to go ahead and heal. Oh, now I hit. Freeze breath on the boy again, pretty unfortunate. I think his... oh wait, no, his targeting is not random. He just has really weird hitbox and behavior, whatever. Snow Dragon down. But either way, Dragonworm is so erratic, and using Sylph against him is a bit of a pain, because it's the most expensive strong spell that you have that actually has an elemental advantage you want to use. Alrighty, now we defeated the first dragon, which means we are allowed to go through the Pure Lands. And quick question. How about that donation incentive for the next run? Has that been reached yet? Or is there still something open? Because last time I checked it might have still been the same as it was before. Alrighty, next up we have...
Nope, we haven't gotten any donations for it, unfortunately. Still $50 away from that incentive.
Well, let's hope that's going to get met sometime soon. That would be nice. So, this is the Axe Beak. Axe Beak is going to be a bit annoying to hit. Because, well, he likes to just stay on his podiums, where I cannot hit him. Unlike Spring Beak, his beak is a literal shield. I will not be able to punch through. And from the bottom, you can almost not hit him. His legs are actually a trap, kind of like the flowers. If you walk into his legs, you're automatically going to get damaged. I position the sprite specifically there, because this should hopefully allow me to keep the Spring Beak locked into his facing to the right position while he's in the middle. Oh, hey, wow. That was a really nice Axe Beak, I dare to say. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, there's a donation incentive open for the next run. $50. It is still out there. And I have to admit, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about, but the runner earlier mentioned that this is something they would kind of like to do, or show off at least. So I would be curious what that is about. So if you have a little bit to spare, maybe just kind of as a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, we are here at the RPGchick-a-thon. That is for our good friend RPGchick, who has not had too much luck lately with, let's say, I think medical bills it was. And we are trying to help her out here a bit. So that's the current idea. So if you have a little bit to spare, we highly appreciate that. But if you don't, feel free to try and spread the word a little bit or something like that. So here we are. Sleep ring is actually less than ideal. So I'm trying to stand exactly below this dude here. Trying to not have him target the boy, preferably. I need to move him. Okay, he dodged the sleep ring, it's fine. There we go. Finally got a hit in. Trying to hit this guy is actually incredibly awkward. The main reason for that is because you cannot hit him for about 3 seconds before and after he casts a spell or uses an ability. So the window of opportunity you have to actually hit this guy is really, really small. So I kind of need to just hope that I kind of sneak in there sometime, somehow. And I don't really know how to do that properly, because this is not normally how you fight this guy. But on the bright side, I seem to have a pretty consistent way of making him use Fire Breath. That way he will not move, and because as soon as the dragons start moving, they are really difficult to hit. Mainly because, as mentioned, just before they take or use an ability and about 3 seconds after, you cannot hit them. Which means, normally what this Fire Dragon here specifically does, is he flies in, uses an ability, and then flies away again, before he can reach him again, pretty much. So it is really awkward to try and hit the Red Dragon. He's the main reason why I considered having a ranged weapon with the whip as my overcharge weapon instead of the spear as well. But thankfully he actually played really nice right there. To be fair, Red Dragon is not that much of a problem usually if you have multiple characters, but if you, let's say, do a solo character challenge, Red Dragon, if you have to defeat him with physical weapons, like with the lady or the sprite specifically, he is a real monster to take care of. It's kinda crazy. So, and this guy is going to be pretty awkward to try and deal with as well. So this is another Giga's enemy. Giga's enemies love to just use abilities and then dance as those little particles for a while. And you just try to sneak in between. So, also they have a lot of invulnerability frames just all over the place. while he's walking around like this, I can actually hit him. This is a possibility. Just before he uses another ability, I could hit him too, just like there. So this is still okay. And he is actually being really nice right now, not immediately going away. So, this was too early. So I just hit him too early right there. There was no possibility of me hitting him while he was using that breath attack. So I needed to wait a little bit longer. And I'm overcharging the weapon too much, which by the way is a bad thing, because eventually the values will overflow to a way too high value. Also, he just gave us lightsaber. Lightning, wind, wind. And the idea for that is, for him anyway, is that, hey, you attack him with wind element, he's going to get healed instead. Or at least only take half the damage. But no one gave the Thunder Geeks the memo that, ladies and gentlemen, elemental weapons in this game actually don't deal elemental damage. They just have a slightly increased damage. So thank you very much for giving me slightly increased damage. And their special effect. And the wind saber, or the wind weapon, I guess, does not actually have any special effect at all. So all it does, it's just slightly increased damage, and it looks purple. So that's kind of cute, I guess. So we're coming up to the last extra boss, and then we are going to be going ahead. And finally get to the actual final area of the game, the Mana Fortress. Oops. And this is kind of a danger of this guy here. So this is the Thunder Dragon. Kind of like the previous dragons, he is pretty difficult to hit during specific time frames and windows. Trying to hit him there is a bit awkward, but I'm going to do my best to actually hit him. This is actually going to be bad, because the lady would die from the next attack, the boy will survive, the sprite will die. So I'm going to start healing with the lady. This will make it so the sprite actually gets revived after being dead, in a sense. It's a bit of a weird system on how it works. So Blitz Breath, I think that is the strongest physical ability in the entire game. But essentially Cactus that... I need to revive the sprite? Probably useful. Cactus that gets... healed by Cure Water, even if they're at 0 HP, as long as you do the thing quick enough, you will actually get healed rather than, well, not get healed. This is going to kill the lady. Going to use a couple pushes here. Or not. We win. Alrighty. Whew. All extra bosses down. Let's go for the Mana Fortress. And I have more equipment than stuff than I usually have, so this is going to be a bit easier. But hey, if someone donates for the next run for $50 right now, I'm actually going to do the next section unequipping all my equipment. I'm going to restock on items, but I will unequip all items. Just saying. Might be a bit more of a challenge, because right now I could just run through the area, no problem, no sweat. No question. But hey, you could make it challenging. Just a little bit. I need to find where the thing is, however, real quick. So for reference, if I unequip equipment, I think I'm too high level for the boy to get one shot, but the other two characters should still get one shot by any spell or attack, just regular attack from enemies that flies in their direction. Perception you can see forever, that's kind of weird. So right now I'm actually just saving. I'm not entirely sure why this is happening. looks normal on my end. I just ended up going to save because if someone actually is crazy enough to donate for it, it would make it rather awkward for me to die along the way. Wait, that's not... Actually kind of is. That works. So, we actually never experienced the cutscene at the Water Palace. So I need to do a little trick in order to skip past it. So, High Spirits, are you around? I think something happened to the... I'm really confused. How does this work? Apparently I'm hosting High Spirits? It doesn't make sense because you can still see the stream.
Yeah, I got it. I don't know what happened either.
I was...
Something completely different on a different screen messed up, and I have no idea what happened.
That was weird, but it hopefully kind of
it
entertaining.
was very weird.
Alrighty, thank you. So, alrighty. Normally the game would still tell me I need to go through the Pure Lands and get strong enough to get through the barrier. But, well, I don't have to. And also, as you can see, the enemies here just don't do any damage.
Hey, Yaga.
Yes?
Feel free to strip naked. Because Set Zeromus gave a $50 donation, donating for Yaga's Secret of Mana run. Smash it up weaponless, buddy.
Alright. Weaponless, I guess, without equipment. I have to use the weapons, as in I technically cannot not unequip them, but the equipment is going to go off. So now we are going to be in danger again. Thank you very much for your generosity, that is crazy. And, well, I hope you enjoy the danger that this brings. Let me see real quick. 2, 2, 2, 3, 3. Alright. I'm going to... Oh. Right. So I'm trying to go through the wall here, but this is going to be really awkward in a second, because... Right, okay. So, what I need to do real quick is I need to restock my items. The way I do this is by doing the equipment trashing glitch, like earlier. So, I'm not going to keep any equipment on, but I'm going to basically, as if I restock that Nico. If I can get the pixel, please. Because I'm pretty low on resources, and without equipment, I'm a little bit worried that I might die if I get into a bit of a pinch. So equip, throw away, equip, throw away, equip, throw away, throw away, throw away. You know what? I'm just going to throw away all equipment here, because why not? So, and 0, 0, 0. Okay. Alrighty, we are back on track now. So what I just did there is I did the same thing I did at the beginning of the game. Oh, the boy's stuck now. That's awkward. I need to hold right and wait a little bit. There we go. Alright, I just walked through the wall because this is significantly safer than trying to do this with going through the normal way, and also a little bit faster if I were to do it quickly, which I didn't do it quickly, but it's okay. So now I need to get the sprites through the wall too. The way I do this is I use a charge attack, so the boomerang has more reach. And this allows me to hit the rope pole on the right side in order to get through the wall here too. So now, spawning this position or placement is really important. I despawned all enemies by moving down right into this room. Then this crap here. Oops, I need to avoid his attack. It will most likely one-shot me. This guy here is not dangerous because he's a pretty late enemy. And he's a magic absorb. The boy doesn't have any magic, so whatever. So, all enemies despawned, we should be fine here. Now, Buffy is most like, those enemies are not all that strong, and they almost one-shot my party right there. Wow, I've never done this area without any equipment at all, that's new. So, I guess I need to be a bit more wary about stuff that I'm not usually that wary about. So, this is Buffy. And I just got him into the perfect position. I positioned the sprite right in front of him, so Buffy will grab him. And then you slow down on him. The idea is that I want him to be delayed in his action for as long as possible, while the boy can just keep getting more stamina and gets hits in for full damage repeatedly. So this is actually very tricky maneuver and timing, where, holy god, that went really well, I'm surprised. Where Buffy essentially needs to be in a proper position for this to happen. I need to hit him, and after you hit Buffy once, as long as you are quick on positioning your characters, you will be able to position them just well enough that Buffy will start eating the sprite, and the sprite can still cast spells while being eaten, which is the useful portion. Alrighty, now, this is going to be really dangerous here, because normally the wolves at least don't one-shot me or don't deal out that much damage, but now without equipment, I need to actually manipulate them too. So, now here, the werewolf... Rip, guys. The werewolf is scary, because he can be scary. Alright, I'm waiting until this slime here splits up into 3. This will allow me to... Oh, lovely. Apparently it didn't multiply the cups of wishes. Well, this will be interesting. Either way, let's let them split up into 3 in order to do this there. I have no more healing. And there's no way to generate healing either. So I need to get a bit lucky here. Oh, other way around. I need the boy to be further away than the lady. For now. Until we're at least set up. So, the boy gets hit here. As long as the boy gets hit, that's good, because I can deny the damage on the boy by just using barrels in appropriate ways. And I'm actually going to start using Analyzer. This is not usually a strategy you get to see. I might be a bit late here. Alright, I'm fine. You can revive via using... Royal Charm, if you're quick enough. But you have a very small window to do so. Alrighty. Red Slime decided to be super nice. Like, he can't just spam Acid Rain right after the next one, and he decided to be super nice about it. Alrighty. Well, this is going to be interesting. Again, I cannot die. Oh boy. Here, me. Oh, that's the wrong character. I meant to this. So yeah, having 3 characters, I can deny the damage pretty easily without any trouble. But not having the other character makes this super awkward. Alright, we already messed up with the spawn. This guy's not supposed to spawn. There should be 3 wolves here. Alright, it is 3 wolves, that's good. That means no enemy spawn on the left side. Now I go far over to the left, down right into this room. Then this, the face thing should not spawn. This guy is supposedly... There we go. He's supposed to cast spells. Now he's finally casted spells. That thing one-shots us too. And now, this is why I wanted to have more barrels. I was hoping she would survive that. If she didn't survive this, she would actually insta-die, and no chance for using a Royal Jam right there. And this is lasting way longer than I expected it to. Hello? Are you done with? No? 7 Royal Jams left. Alright. Those enemies are scary. Down right into this room. Basically you want to go all the way down right to despawn all enemies in this room. Then you go down right into the next room too. And then there's this room here, where actually I'm not entirely sure how to despawn those tsunamis there, or the fiend head. So I'm just going to try and hit him first before we go on. Makes it safer for me. Then there should be 3 Terminators that we need to sneak through somehow. All 3 of them are casting spells, so we should be able to just go through. Nice. You think the girl is on fire? Just a little bit. Alrighty, we managed to get to the boss with 3 alive characters. And... Alright, I actually have a technique that should make this reasonably consistent even without having to heal much anyways. So one of the problems is that enemies that use effects that have certain status effects, like they poison you or they make you unconscious or engulf you in flames, those effects will insta-kill you. Instead of your character dropping to the floor, taking a ton of damage, being at 0 HP for a while, they are just straight up dead. Because the game checks for which status you should have next right away, rather than delaying that until it comes around to check, oh, you're supposed to be dead now, so you don't get to stand up. So I cannot use Royal Jam during that specific time. And the same will happen with the Dark Lich here. He will be using those kinds of status effects pretty frequently. So what I'm doing here, he has 6666 HP. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to use a secondary technique that I have yet to use in an actual run. Also I'm equipping the sword on that boy. I'm going to start using slowdown on him. Kind of like... oh, immediately going. Get out of the way. I was too eager to try and go for the thing. Kind of like with Vampire and stuff. I'm just going to go ahead and use slowdowns repeatedly. Try and lock him into place so I can actually hit him. I need to check who gets hit. Okay, I needed to check who gets hit because, unfortunately, this is not normally... normally he targets the closest character, but in this specific instance, he had the chance to target literally anybody. So now I need to sync it up a little bit again, in order to get this rolling. The downside right now is that the sprite will run out of magic very soon. So I'm going to switch over to Analyzer from the lady instead, which has the same effect except it's slower. And I'm also not used to the timing at all. Come on. So the idea is to lock him into place so he doesn't use any abilities on me that could insta-kill me or kill me at all. It's the last time I can cast thing here on the sprite. I'm actually going to replenish the sprite's magic here anyways. Too early. Ooh. accidentally overcharged. The sprite should not take any damage from this, because he was casting a spell himself. That's the theory, but I used the item on him anyways. Oh my goodness, I accidentally messed up the proper charge attack as well, so now we're all over the place with which attack I'm using right now. And she is diving down again. Alright, but we are still alive, so that's a plus. For now anyways. Come on, no sprite. Let's see if I can get this. No. I'm out. I'm too scared to do this right now. There's a technique where you can just lure this guy into doing AI loop, a headbang so to speak. But it's really sketchy to do this when I have no way of recovering. Because those hands will insta-kill me. There's no way of recovering because they also knock you unconscious if they hit you. But they deal too much damage, so they would insta-kill me instead of knocking me unconscious. So I'm not doing that. Alrighty, we got him. And yes, what Crow says. I didn't actually explain that properly, I guess. Oh, we are really far behind. Holy smokes. Sorry, guys. All bosses, I guess, takes longer than I expected it to, despite me trying to go for a higher estimate. Well, the technical problems didn't help. Alrighty, final boss incoming. The final boss is actually going to be a little bit weird, because normally you deal enough damage with the spear to deal damage. So, let me real quick reiterate. The Mana Beast has 550 defense. That is why normally a lot of people think, oh, you have to use the Mana Sword to damage it at all. But that's not true. All you need to do is you need to deal enough damage to punch through the Mana Beast's defense in order to do any damage at all. We deal enough damage with the spear as well, so there's no real difference in terms of damage, whether I would be using the Mana Sword or using a regular spear weapon instead. However, the Mana Spear also has a the Mana Sword has a secondary property where it never misses. It has 0 chance to miss, so instead of having a 30% chance to miss with the spear right now, using the Mana Sword will allow me to do that. However, I still need to use an overcharge attack in order to actually get the damage out there properly. Since, well, my characters are not that high level and the secondary condition for the Mana Sword to be strong has not been met, which that's kind of a weird little mechanic. So I need to use overcharge. Normally you cannot swap around the Mana Sword, and also it would eventually disappear from your inventory, reverting back to a regular sword after a certain amount of time. But if you just use a saber spell onto the sword, it will just last forever, and you can also swap it around in your characters. It's kind of neat. So, either way, this is why they use the Mana Sword. So, the Mana Sword has, or more specifically, the Mana Sword spell has an interesting property, where the Mana Sword, while itself is really powerful, it actually gets powered up even more based on how much levels you have on your secondary weapons. And in a glitchless run, you actually manipulate those secondary levels to be really high, and so with regular slashes, you actually deal max damage to the Mana Beast. It's pretty sweet. In fact, the glitchless run has the fastest Mana Beast fight overall. Let's see. Don't think I can hit it yet. Or could I? I probably missed the window of opportunity right there, because I was looking for the wrong cue. Yeah, I can hit it already. So, basically the mana beast has its cycles. Kind of like the previous enemies, I just lock the mana beast in place before it gets into position. Because after this, he will cast Wall, and I have no real way of removing the Wall spell on himself, which means in order for me to get a 1 cycle here, I will need to have really tight timing with my slowdown spells and cast it as early as possible, which I missed that window of opportunity. So now I probably need 2 or 3 critical hits in order to kill the mana beast before it flies away. So this is what is called the 1 cycle, and my visual cue for some reason didn't work out. I was waiting for something that didn't show up, but I was probably just looking at the wrong thing. So either way, Mana Beast has 9990 HP, and each one of its attacks would insta-kill my entire party if I did not deny the damage. You deny the damage by using spells here. I have to admit, this was a lot scarier. Well, it's not over yet, I guess, but this run was a lot scarier than it should have been, in my opinion. Because all of a sudden I don't have equipment anymore. But thank you for your generosity, and I'm actually glad this ended up working out anyways. Alrighty, we're almost there. Next time I will know that it's about a 2-hour 45 estimate for all bosses. And it was actually just one more hit. Ladies and gentlemen, this was Seeker of Mana, 1 player, 2 controller, all bosses on top of it. Thank you for being awesome, thank you for having me in this marathon. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being such a great community. This marathon shows that, well, people care about each other, and that is really nice. Once again, a huge shout out to High Spirits himself, who organized this marathon within record time, just mans everything, he does everything. By the way, if you ever meet High Spirits in real life, he is one of the nicest people ever. Like, this is the guy you want to be a friend with. So, by the way, that was time, sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching, thank you for listening. Please enjoy the next run. That is going to be coming up very soon. I don't think we have time for the ending here. So let me just announce that real quick. It is going to be Tail Concerto with all photos %. Thank you very much, guys. That's really neat. High Spirits, take it over.
Thank you very much, Yagamoth, for the Secret of Mana